That brings us to the public input. Members, I've received a number of requests in the public input. 2 requests have been declined, so I'll cover those first. From a Mr. George Scott, it was regarding a resource consent matter, and also Marta Fish and Paul Walden, that also involved a resource consent matter, neither being the jurisdiction of this committee. And they have been given advice on how best to relay their information. 2 requests have been deferred until March, and that's Mr. Nick Reid regarding the Albert Park Tunnels development proposal. Very exciting proposal, that one. And also the Public Transport Users Association regarding trains to Huapai, their campaign to bring that to fruition. They can't make this meeting. They were going to come to this meeting, so they will come to a future meeting. Which brings us to those that will be appearing before us, and we have 3 presenters. Mr. Ben Ross, who will talk about the Southern Airport line and Airport to Botany Rapid Transit, and Harriet Gale, who will be speaking about Regional Rapid Rail, and Henry Crothers, who's the chair of the Tamaki Makaurau Design Alliance. Well, he'll introduce the work of the Alliance and how it relates to the Auckland Council's Auckland Design Office. And immediately after Henry's presentation, we'll go straight to that item, where Ben Van Bruggen and Ludo Campbell-Reid will present, along with Tim Fitzpatrick and Lisa Dunshay. So that is a brief rundown of public input, declines, deferrals and acceptances, and we'll kick off with Mr. Ben Ross. Welcome, Ben.
Thank you, Chris. Morning, everyone. I'm going to take, hopefully the presentation is read because it was sent in quite early, as well as the supplementary that was sent along that gives a more broader outline of the Southern Airport line and transit orientated developments, or TODs for short. What I am going to start with is a question, and it's a question that gnaws away at me, it gnaws away at this committee, and it gnaws away at Wellington as well. The question being, do we want our infrastructure running ahead of growth and demand, or do we constantly want to be in deficit mode where we always seem to be catching up? For me personally, I prefer the preference of running the infrastructure slightly ahead of demand. Reason one is it's cheaper to put in place, especially sites that are blank land to start with, than trying to do it once the site is fully developed, and you have to take into consideration of other matters, including existing residents, businesses, and reverse sensitivity rules. Reason two is that it can spark healthier outcomes right off the bat, both physically and mentally, especially when there's a report out from, I think it was the Ministry of Transport, that for the especially with our roads and the congestion and the poor state that they're in, it's costing us health-wise $4.7 billion per annum, and that's also marked in lost productivity as well. So just briefly, the Southern Airport line, or as it's formerly known as Rapid Transit from Auckland Airport to Botany via Puanui Station in Manukau City Centre. Its length is 18.5 k's or 9.5 just straight to Manukau. Its route mainly follows State Highway 20B, then Puanui Road, then down into Manukau. Then my preference is Tiarangi Drive. Auckland Transport has either Tiarangi or Chapel Road and Redoubt Road. Those are the benefits there. The question that I get asked by my peers quite regularly is, why our light rail straight off the bat and not bus, given that bus rapid transit could be done for about a third of the cost. There was a picture posted up yesterday of the bus congestion at Wellesley Street. That's a case I would eventually like to try and avoid with Manukau, given Manukau not only has the rail station but also the bus station that opens up in a couple of months. So the idea of building LRT ahead of time is to try and avoid the situation we have in Wellesley Street now. Also, as we'll hear later on by the Greater Auckland presenters, the reason why 7 Airport line is LRT is it connects with regional rapid rail as well as the southern and eastern lines at Puanui Station straight out to Auckland Airport. As I say, it's trains to planes. Given that we have a tendency to undershoot transit demand, LRT, given its capacity, would be able to meet that demand quite quickly, and we wouldn't have to come back 10 years later digging up the road again to place down light rail lines. Because I follow the philosophy of dig once, build it once, right time, every time. Which comes to the main point, which is what's in the supplementary information, the benefits of going straight to LRT right off the bat. And that comes around transit-orientated developments, or TODs for short. Every transit station has an 800-metre walk-up catchment. It can be extended to about 1.6 k's when you include feeder buses or e-bikes. The opportunity that the Southern Airport line gives right off the bat is the opportunity to intensify within 800 metres of all the stations, or 16 of them along the route, and that could be either industrial, if it's on the Puanui side, commercial residential, if it's in Manukau, or residential as you start heading out towards the Botany Metropolitan Centre. It also presents other opportunities inside the transformed Manukau area of not only intensification, but for niche industries to pop along that you normally wouldn't see. And then I suppose it comes down to the figure of cost. To take it straight out to Botany is about $1.38 billion. Just to take it out to Manukau City only as a first stage is about $712 million. It's probably lower, given most of the land is blank land at the moment, although it's been zoned industry. When can we start? Now. I suppose the next question you're going to, or the first question you're going to ask me is, what other projects get sacrificed to meet this, given the budget constraints both of council and government? The top 5 I had for the draft RLTP that came out, or is due to come out, was the following. Northwestern LRT straight out to Westgate was number 1. The 3rd and 4th mains from Otahu to Wuri and Papako were priority 2. The Southern Airport line was number 3. The Northern Airport line, which is airport to city centre via Dominion Road, was priority 4. And Mill Road southern section, that's Papakura to Juri, was priority 5. That means Mill Road northern section has been knocked out of the top 5, and Lincoln Road has been technically knocked out, which means you've got about $1 billion of potential capex freed up that could be applied to these top 5 projects. Given that the Southern Airport line is also based around TOD developments, you can leverage off those developments, especially that council and the Crown own about 200 hectares of land inside Manukau itself, and you can leverage those developments to help pay for at least the airport to Manukau section of the line, and then build it stage by stage, as Vancouver does with SkyTrain, out to Botany over the next 15 years. As I conclude this up, just one final thing, reason why the Southern Airport line should be LRT, is it could connect to the airport to city centre route directly, and you could run through trains like we are doing with Britomart right off the bat. That means sometime in the future you could be catching a single seat ride from, say, Wynyard Quarter down Dominion Road to the airport, and then carry on to Manukau and eventually up to Botany, eliminating cumbersome transfers at the airport. Your timing would be about every 10 minutes all day, every day, with 5-minute frequencies and key peak periods, which can include Sundays, given the airport can be very busy. And I will leave it at that and take questions.
Thank you, Ben. Members, questions? Councillor Walker. Councillor Cashmore after.
Sure. Have you done any work, Ben, around how long it would take to get to the airport on this line? And over and above that, in the larger context, the time for the larger catchment to get to the airport using this link, particularly in the south?
Certainly. If we look at Papakura, the Southern Airport line was built as LRT, you would transfer at Puanui Station. Your trip would be 35 minutes, including transfer. Currently, especially on a day like this, absolutely miserable. It will take about 70 minutes for me to get to the airport by car. If you're looking at Botany to the airport, the same for LRT. given that Te Arangi Drive and State Highway 20B would be locked up. If I take it from the north, so from the city centre, you're looking at about 45 minutes, including a transfer at Puanui Station as well. That's similar timing to the Northern Airport line, but the two lines serve two different purposes. The Northern is designed for catchment maximisation, those that don't have access to rapid transit now, or the Southern was designed for pure speed in this case. If regional rapid rail did go ahead from Auckland to Hamilton, you could be from Britomart to Puanui in about 15 minutes and then another 10 minutes out to the airport. So it's much faster than what we have now, especially on a day like this, and especially around Christmas time where we see all those doom pictures of State Highway 20A being blocked up and people missing flights.
Okay, and what would be the comparison with heavy rail, given that you wouldn't have to switch from one to the other?
Timings could be similar, but as I think it was Jarrett Walker from Human Transit in the States pointed out, you have a service problem because you are branching away from the main line itself. So instead of, say, 12 trains to Papakura from Britomart, we're down to 6, with another 6 going up to Puanui. That could result in degradation of service south of Puanui, especially with the Papakura to Pukekohe being developed, as Deputy Mayor Cashwell would know. We've got enough future urban zone down there for 55,000 houses, 165,000 residents and 35,000 jobs. So we need all 12 of those trains to go to Papakura and Pukekohe, and we'll have a dedicated LRT service out to the airport.
Councillor Cashmore.
Thanks, and thought-provoking as always, Ben. LRT versus ART. Have you done any figures on that?
No, I haven't. LRT meaning you're looking at...
So it's non-tracked, so you've still got a dedicated route, but you don't put the steel on the ground, so it's quite a bit cheaper.
I did have a brief look at it. In the end, it's in the supplementary report. I think Vancouver took a look at it. In the end, the track still moved at least 10 times the amount. If I looked at SkyTrain, it's not on this presentation, it's in your supplementary. It had the capability, in their case, so of course, always scale it back for Auckland, moving 35,000 people an hour, whereas ART could only move about half that. So if you scale it back to Auckland, you're looking at similar figures as well. I suppose the next question also comes in, how do we fund it? It's good old-fashioned debt, given the bond rates in the public sector are pretty low at the moment. However, I am in mind of what's going on in the United States at the moment. We need to keep an eye on it. But traditionally, we fund it through bonds, if you're looking at that way.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. Other questions of Ben? Councillor Hoss.
Thank you, and thank you, Ben. Admire your thoroughness and your thoughtfulness as always. Can I just go back to your reprioritisation discussion that you moved through quite quickly?
Yes.
I absolutely get what you're saying here and support the direction you're taking. However, I'm just interested in the balance in the region.
Yep.
And thinking about the huge focus on south, and it's a discussion you and I have had regularly, and looking at the balance out west and in the northwest, given the huge volume of potential growth out there. How do you propose the timing of your reprioritised services to the northwest?
Just to confirm, northwest as in the Westgate Metropolitan Centre and its catchment, or are you referring to Henderson as well? Because there's two different answers depending which metro.
And I was fudging it.
I'll do both. For Westgate, as I said, priority one was northwestern from here out to Westgate and hopefully out to Cumulate as well, given the phenomenal... Northwest is the second fastest growing area behind the south, so I acknowledge that. That's why I had it as absolute priority one. It would be done at the same time as the Southern Airport line is done, because the SAL is the universal connection. It's not only just serving the south, technically until light rail from the north and down State Highway 20 is complete, you could come in from either northwestern or the western line into the city and then down to the Southern Airport line and out. If you're coming from where the northern councillors are coming from, you catch the Northern Express down and then jump to heavy rail and then out. But the northwestern isn't technically forgotten because it's absolute priority one in that list. It would be done at the exact same time. From Henderson, there's two ways you can go about that. You could catch heavy rail through, or there was a suggestion from Greater Auckland the other day that there's a light rail connection from, I think it was Avondale, following State Highway 20 down to Onehunga, which then joins up to the Northern Airport line and then through to the airport itself. That's using the old Southdown Avondale freight designation. So, yeah, I haven't forgotten them, and they are served, and that's why I've got Northwest as technically priority 1 and the SAL as priority 3.
You're a marvel. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Hulse. Member Henry.
Hey, Ben. I just heard you mention Lincoln Road.
Yes.
What was that? You want to put that on hold, the work that is supposed to be happening?
Lincoln Road, like Mill Road and the East-West Link, in my opinion, need to be rethought and probably redone. The question is, do we need 4-lane de facto motorways at any of those 3 corridors? The answer is no. I'll just go back to Mill Road. Basic safety upgrades for Mill Road, Northern End, is more than sufficient to take the growth we've got out there. East-West Link, you can upgrade the existing infrastructure. Lincoln Road is technically the same, and if I remember the congestion-free network properly, Lincoln Road was also meant to have, I think it's either bus or light rail up to Albany.
Absolutely.
That would take most of that traffic off the road and into transit to either go to Upper Harbour, Albany, or onto the Northwestern line down into the city centre itself. So when I mean Lincoln Road gets taken off, it's a review to scale it back and actually add proper transit in the first time, because as I said at the beginning, dig once, build once, right first time, every time. So that's what I meant with Lincoln Road.
Thank you.
No further questions. Thank you again, Ben.
Thank you, Chris.
You always bring a lot to the conversation in the transport space, and we're appreciative of that. Keeps us engaged. Of course, members, with the transport government's policy statement on transport well underway, and we'll hear about that very soon. The ATAP will be revised, and then the Regional Land Transport Plan will start to show us some of the individual projects and programs that come out of all that strategic work. So a lot's going to be happening that lands some direction that Ben and others are seeking, and that will be happening over the next couple of months. Somebody like to move receipt of Ben's presentation? Councillor Clow and Deputy Mayor second. All those in favour say aye. Contrary no. Declare that carried. Thank you, Ben, again. We'll now invite Harriet Gale to come forward and speak about a related topic, and that's regional rapid rail. Welcome, Harriet.
Good. Okay. Haven't done this before, so bear with me. Okay, so that's how it works. Excellent.
Far away.
No. I want Lincoln Road to have that pink shit that you bikies.
Just to begin, thank you for allowing me to present to you guys today, and thank you again also for having the potential for passenger services in the Golden Triangle in the draft Auckland plan. I'd also like to thank this council for its continuous engagement and advocacy to improve the rail network here in Auckland. We've seen the dividends as a result of that advocacy. So what's the context? Well, the Golden Triangle, Auckland, Hamilton, Tauranga, we're now half of New Zealand's population. We're over half of the New Zealand economy. We're going to be 70% of New Zealand's growth between now to 2046. And we've got a housing crisis. What's the goals of this proposal? It's not just about fast trains. The trains are about enabling regional development. It's about connecting the economies of the Golden Triangle. It's about leveraging the underused rail line. It's about avoiding loading more trips onto the southern motorway. If we just keep adding houses to Pocono, we know it's just going to congest. It's also about supporting tourism, retail, regional events and sports. It's not just about commuting. So what's the proposal? Well, basically 3 stages. Stage 1 is what you can do pre the City Rail Link with the capacity constraints. While Stage 2 has been delivered, Stage 2 is the core of the proposal, and Stage 3 is where you can really take it from there. So Stage 1, we're looking at 2 hours, 15 minutes, because you're going to have to transfer somewhere on the Auckland rail network. It needs to be a new network principles, all day, 7 days a week. We can't just focus on commuters. If we're putting all this money in, the marginal cost of adding extra services is actually quite low. If we look at the 2012 report, we can see that work actually makes only 11% of the reasons why people want to use this type of service. So we've got to cater for other trips other than just the commuting, because as we can see, it's just as much about visiting family and friends, about coming up to the viaduct, about going shopping in Newmarket. Stage 2 is where we start getting really serious. We start looking at about an hour and 30 minutes between Auckland and Hamilton by purchasing 160 kilometre an hour fit-for-purpose intercity tilting trains. These type of trains exist in Queensland right now, and Queensland have the exact same rail gauge as us, so that's pretty convenient. Technical difficulties. And then stage 3 is kind of where we can take it from there. With some upgrades, more trains and more lines, we could probably get Auckland to Hamilton in around an hour and 13 minutes and 2 hours to Tauranga. But that would be in the future. But what's the benefits for Auckland? Because, I mean, everybody would probably be thinking this is mostly about the Waikato and Bay and Plenty. Well, I think the bigger benefit here is it takes pressure off the housing crisis here. It allows feasible development in the Waikato and Bay of Plenty. I mean, if Regional Rapid Rail is done, places like Huntly will actually be closer to the city centre transport-wise than places like Flatbush. It's about trains to the plains. Auckland Airport becomes a multi-regional airport. As Ben said before, the people could transfer at Punui onto his proposed line. So you could get on the train at Hamilton, swap at Punui and go to the airport. It also improves the case for upgrades that we already want. Auckland's already submitted for many upgrades as part of the Auckland Transport Alignment Project. This simply approves the case to government for these upgrades and potentially makes these upgrades the argument that central government should fund a much higher share of them, giving the multi-regional benefits. It gives Auckland employers access to a wider labour pool and Aucklanders access to more opportunities, whether work, study or play. It's not just about Auckland. You know, there's people up here in Auckland who want to study down in Waikato, who have friends who have gone down to Waikato, or simply they want to go out to Mount Maunganui and just have a great day out with the family. So what are the next steps for Auckland? Financially, it's not much. The main thing is giving public support to this. The major obstacle in all the previous reports was the lack of confidence from Auckland entities because of the congestion on our rail network and that we were busy trying to build up ours. We're now in a position where we're not worried about our rail network and we know that it will have the capacity in the future. So it's mainly about giving the Waikato the confidence that we're going to allow it on our end. The second thing is making sure that any upgrades that we do obviously don't hinder regional rapid rail, such as the upgrade at Punui Station or Britomart. One of the smart things that we could do is working with the Waikato to integrate the fares with HOP. So that way you could have HOP card, tag on at Hamilton, and then tag on to a bus here in Auckland straight away instead of having two separate fares. That's something that we can do. It's contribute where agreed for the upgrades that we've already agreed to as part of the Auckland Transport Alignment Project. And it's also about making Punui Interchange a priority investment, also as Ben said before, so that way Auckland Airport can become that multi-regional connection. Any questions?
Thank you, Harriet. Deputy Mayor.
So Harriet, thanks very much for your presentation. It's good to see you again. So you're aware of the work that's been done originated between the Waikato District Council and the Regional Council there about supporting what your proposal is. Are you going down to present to them at the next and last meeting?
I believe that Auckland Council is trying to arrange for myself and Patrick Reynolds to have a speaking spot at the next forum on March 2nd or 3rd.
Yeah, that's right.
We're just waiting for their acceptance of that.
And do you have an idea of the amount of population growth that's expected in the Waikato, particularly North Waikato regions over the next 20 years?
I couldn't give you numbers, but it is very large, especially if we continue to not be able to address this housing crisis here in Auckland.
Thanks. It was interesting, I think, Mr. Chairman, thank you for coming to that consortium last Friday afternoon. They're talking about a regional rail network connecting population centres outside of the Auckland geographical area to enable transfer for jobs and employment and recreation both ways, north and south. And there's some big opportunities there that can be explored, I would think. So it's an interesting piece of work.
Councillor Simpson.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Following on from the Deputy Mayor, talks about whether you've spoken to Waikato. Have you spoken to central government?
We haven't spoken to central government, but we did present originally to the Honourable Michael Wood MP before the election, and both the Green Party and the Labour Party took regional rapid rail as a policy to the election. New Zealand First didn't take our policy, but they do have a policy of regional rail. So all three parties in government have worked on this. We've seen from the draft, well not the draft GPS, but the indications of the changes that the Minister wants to make to the GPS, that regional rail for him is a priority in that GPS. So I believe central government will likely come on board with this proposal, whether it's in this form or another.
Thank you. Councillor Wayne Walker? No?
I was just going to say supplementary. I'd be interested in her return after she has spoken to both Waikato and central government.
So there's an invitation, our group, which I sit on with the Deputy Mayor, Waikato Regional, Waikato District, Hamilton City Council, Kiwi Rail, Treasury officials, NZTA officials, Auckland Transport officials on this group that met on Friday to discuss interregional rail. I think, did I miss some?
It was just that third meeting. We've been to
we have a final meeting before recommendations are made, and I think there is likely to be an invitation extended to Harriet and proponents of this proposal. And I think it's okay to, I mean, there's public documents that were tabled the other day. There is a letter to that group from the new Minister of Transport, the Honourable Phil Twyford, and he has indicated, and I could possibly recall the quote from that letter, is the government sees interregional rail, Hamilton Waikato, as a priority. Nothing further other than saying it's a priority, because of course we can have priorities. It's a question of when, where, and where it sits on the list.
And how you pay for it.
So I'm sure that is likely to appear in the government policy statement for transport, though it also has an interface with Honourable Shane Jones and his role as Regional Economic Development Minister. So this is a project, members, that I think has got a lot of new life in behind it. And Deputy Mayor, from recollection, there were unanimous decisions at Waikato Regional and Hamilton City Council.
Almost.
Almost. At one, I think there was
one dissenter
in favour of exploring this as a priority. And of course, subject to funding. Member Hanare.
Thanks, Mr. Chair. Notwithstanding your platitudes about the work of the committee looking south, given that the Honourable Shane Jones and the Right Honourable Winston Peters has wished for that whangarei Auckland link, how does that all fit in? Well, we just going to concentrate on that. What Katie said, that golden triangle, Waikato and Tauranga.
Look, if I'm probably not the best to answer this because I think officials are better to answer this, but I think the government policy statement on transport will reflect the coalition agreement, and I think you know that in that coalition agreement between New Zealand First and Labour there was reference to interregional rail with, I think it had specific reference to rail to Northland.
Yeah, I'm just not sure. I'm not arguing the toss about it, but being from the north, I was buoyed by what Winston and Shane had said about trying to reinvigorate the Whangarei-Auckland link. I'm just wondering how it fits in, and two, how it might impinge on the costings of what Auckland City want to do looking southwards. That's all. So I'm just musing.
My recommendation would be let's wait for the government policy statement on transport, because I don't think the new minister is talking about just a light rail project. He's talking about a network for Auckland, and similarly with interregional rail, I'm not hearing him talk about individual projects. I'm hearing that he is, and his fellow ministers are interested in a network of interregional rail. So I think that is probably the direction that they'll go with. But I'm not second guessing that. Let's just see what the document outlines. Any other questions for Harriet?
Thanks, Greg.
Thank you, Harriet. Great work. And look, the work that yourself and Nick Reid have done on this, and there's a number of other people, is extraordinary. The analysis is absolutely solid. And it's great to see this being discussed as not just a transport project. This is a regeneration project for towns like Ngaruawahia, Huntly and others that are being bypassed by an expressway and can be enlivened long term through interregional rail connections. Thank you for that. I have a mover, and I think it was Councillor, Deputy Mayor. You're moving receipt?
Yep.
Second? I'll second then. And all those in favour say aye. Contrary, no. Declare that carried. Now we'll go
No one even uttered a word.
to our third public input presenter, and it's Henry Crothers on behalf of the Tamaki Makaurau Design Alliance, and this is in support of item 11. Welcome, Henry.
Morning. Good morning, everyone. I'm here as the acting chair of the Tamaki Makaurau Design Alliance. Now, I'm not sure that everyone in this room is aware of who this group is, but the one slide that I do have to talk to on the screen identifies the various members of this Design Alliance. So you'll see up there that includes Auckland Council, the Property Council of New Zealand, the Designers Institute of New Zealand, the New Zealand Planning Institute, the Architectural Designers of New Zealand Institute, Ngā Aho, the Māori Design Network, New Zealand Institute of Architects, New Zealand Institute of Landscape Architects, Urban Design Forum, and our key educational facilities in Auckland, the University of Auckland, Unitec and AUT, have all come together to form what we call as TMDA. This initiative has come out of our tripartite alliance with Guangzhou and Los Angeles, and was initiated in the 2016 hosting of that tripartite event here in Auckland, where the various design representatives of those cities came together to talk about how we can work together and share information in relation to urban design. So this group is represented by the leaders of each of those organisations in the context of Auckland. So we've generally got the chair of each of the branches of these institutes, and therefore connections into their kind of national network. So we've got a collection of all the important people in Auckland coming together to form this group. I guess we all believe in design and the value of design, the importance that design has for the future of Auckland, and we've come together, I guess, to promote the value of design in terms of our future, and we're interested in all these conversations that you've just been having about transport and the future of our city. we have had a series of workshops together to form a charter and define a way in which we're going to work together to promote design and to promote Auckland and to work with all of you and with the Auckland Design Office to promote design. So our charter simply says that we will work together to promote to design a better Tamaki Makaurau. It's pretty simple, but it's not been hugely easy to bring all these people together with different views, but we've got some common ground now to kind of to work with. I guess the way in which we're organised is there's sort of two parts to it. One is kind of locally, and one is in relation to the ongoing gala relationships that we have. So I guess that the local priority for us is in relation to building a network of designers and specialists and kind of pooling our resources. We're all individually voluntary organisations. We have small chunks of money in terms of funding. So what we're hoping to do is to work more closely together to align ourselves in terms of promoting our various industries, hosting events, and bringing people and speakers to Auckland. That we can establish a better network and be more efficient in the way that we work and work together to promote ourselves individually and collectively. I think secondly, we have some specific roles ongoing in relation to the Gala Alliance, and we have had a series of those events hosted in LA, Guangzhou and Auckland to date. We've individually and outside of that had a series of workshops and established some networks around knowledge sharing and information sharing around projects and the particular urban and design issues that are affecting each of those cities, and we've established some really great relationships with our respective organisations in each of those other cities. We have also recently established a internship program between the cities, and that was announced in at the Guangzhou event late last year. So later this month we've got some graduates from LA and Guangzhou coming to Auckland to work at my studio, Land Lab, at Architectus and at Reset Urban Design to share information and share experiences of working in our city, and we hope to send in future some of our graduates to those other cities as well. So that's an important relationship that's been established. We now also have an awards program agreed with Los Angeles. Last year we entered the Light Path project and we won the inaugural tripartite architecture award. This year we're looking at entering the Freiburg Place project and also the Fair and Hayes Bishop Selwyn Chapel up at the Trinity Church in Parnell. So there's a series of ongoing activities in support of that relationship, and I think that's going to be important going forward. I think coming back to the kind of what we hope to do locally is that, and this will make more sense when Ludo and Ben and his team have made his presentation to you later on, we've been asked by that team to form or to provide an advisory role to the ADO in terms of the work that they do and they have planned going forward, and to utilise the skills of that group of people to provide feedback to the activities that the ADO are doing. And so we hope to be able to work together to do that and to provide the kind of targeted feedback around specific issues by drawing on the expertise that we've got sitting around the table within TMDA. So I think I'm happy to take questions.
Oh, that's not a cue to finish. It's just a vibration. Henry, feel free to carry on.
Look, I think that's really about it. I think it's a pretty kind of simple proposition at the moment. We're really just starting this kind of journey together, and so we're all kind of very excited about the opportunity that we have to kind of contribute collectively and as each of those individual organisations that form TMDA. So yeah, I think this is really a little short discussion for information for you guys.
Thank you, Henry. Very valuable. Members, questions of Henry on the Alliance work? Oh, I've got quite a few. Councillor Casey first.
Oh, Henry, I love this. I think it's been a long time coming. Everybody working together. The only missing partner up there I thought was the Chamber of Commerce, and representing all the businesses in Central Auckland. It's quite important they're on board. And that brings me to a point I'll make with you and with Ludo when he comes up, and that is that, well, this will create an inclusive city where everybody's welcomed and celebrated. At the moment, we have 3 businesses in Auckland that have drenchers on the homeless at night. Defensive architecture will be outlawed by this, which is great, but what are you going to do about the drenchers that are there already?
I think, well, I think our membership to our group has been somewhat fluid, so we can look at adding people to that. I mean, I think really we do have a particular focus on design, and I guess that's, you know, that's sort of the underpinning of why we're together, but we're certainly open to having other members. So.
Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Casey. Member Henry.
What's the Māori input in terms of you got Tiaranga design principles, and so what's the Māori input into?
I guess in our group, Aho are a member of our group and a prominent member of our group, and that's their role within that group, is to bring Māori and cultural design issues, you know, to the table and those discussions. So yeah.
Cool.
Thank you, Councillor Hulse, then Councillor Clow.
Thank you, and I applaud this. I think through design is how we're going to solve the really gnarly problems of the future. So my question is the environment, which is obviously my main focus on the council. Thinking about design guidelines, I guess I'm seeking reassurance that water-sensitive urban design and our harbours are right at the centre of this, because the only way that we're going to solve the problems that we're facing in the future is if we align the way we build structure, the way we design transport, and the way we try and work with Papatūānuku to deal with the deluges that we're facing. So I guess my question's fairly clear. Is this still at the heart of design for Auckland?
Well, look, absolutely. I guess our role collectively is going to be to support the various initiatives that Council and the ADO have, and to use those skills from our group to, I guess, provide a kind of check to make sure that what's being done is best practice and is, you know, is based on the very best kind of work available to us. So I think that's the whole idea, is to kind of be that external sounding board to make sure that everything is going forward as best as it can. So yeah.
I guess, Mr. Chair, and I'll be boring everyone to tears with this over the next little while, but I think, you know, a lot of our thinking in the city is circa 1974, and it may well ring and ask for its policies back, and Watercare seems to hold most of them at the moment. I would really very much like us to drive new ways of thinking around resilience and around sustainability and around dealing with climate change from our design sector, because you do hold that pen right at the beginning, and I would love to see you challenge us every step of the way too.
I think certainly that's our intention, and we, you know, we are actively seeking, you know, projects and causes to support and promote as part of the group.
Start with stormwater. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor. Councillor Clow.
Hi, Henry. Just comment on the tripartite. Have you found the participation in the tripartite summits worthwhile?
Personally, I've been involved in a couple of trips to Guangzhou now and to Los Angeles, and I think you know, there's two parts to it. Clearly, there's a relationship exercise between our cities, which I think is going really, really well, and I think we're sharing information. We've made good contacts and good networks, and I think, you know, there's the start of a really valuable relationship there. The second part of that is obviously around you know, providing opportunities for us as consultants and practitioners to get work in some of those other places, and I think I see some opportunities for that to happen in the future, but I think we've got to build those kind of relationships in the first instance. So I think we're making some good gains in terms of those relationships, and hopefully that means some of those other things follow suit. But look, I think it's a really great initiative, and I know it's sort of gone one cycle in terms of its course, and it's likely to kind of change as we move forward, but I think it's definitely a valuable thing, you know, for all of us and for council as well, hopefully. So, yeah. Thank you.
Thank you. One is, I want to acknowledge the work that your group does, and it's all pro bono. It's another, just like Harriet and Ben have come here, there are networks right across Auckland that are professionally and individually contributing hugely to the shaping of Auckland, because your interest is you're going to be here for a while, and your children and others will be here for a while, and your business is here as well. So your alliance is making a huge contribution to the space. You've been at it a while, Henry. I think I first came across you in about 2000 when you were in landscape architecture. In 2004 and 5, a number of councils signed up to the Urban Design Protocol. At that time, design, if you mentioned it, I know at some of the council tables I was at, was can we please leave that item quickly and get on to something that we know about? It was a bit like talking about cycling at that time as well. It was, can we please proceed to the next item? Can you just give us a bit of a barometer check? How far have we moved? We talk a lot about it, but in your eyes, how far have we moved since the Urban Design Protocol came in, and I think it was 05, most of the Auckland councils signed up to it?
Yeah, look, I mean, from my point of view, I think we've made huge leaps forward, and I look back and I was involved a long time ago in the upgrade of Queen Street, which started back in 2003. And I remember at the time, we were sort of running around council trying to figure out, well, how do we do this? You know, what's the process around, doing a design? Who do we talk to? How do we get it signed off? What's the process? And some of that was literally sort of knocking on doors down at Bledisloe House, and it was sort of a choose your own adventure exercise for us, which ultimately wasn't that helpful. So I think with the relationships we've now got nationally with some of those, the guidance and the urban design panel, with the ADO and the increasing sophistication around how we brief and design and deliver projects, I think we're making a massive leap forward. I think but it needs to kind of carry on, I guess. So whilst we've made a huge improvement, there's always room to keep going, and I think that's kind of what we're all interested in is what the next 10 years is like in terms of what else we can do.
Well, thank you, Henry. So I'll move receipt of Henry's presentation and second Councillor Hulse. Again, thanks, Henry. Great work, and please convey our acknowledgement to the group.
Will do. Thank you.
All those in favour say aye.
Aye.
Contrary, no. Declare that carried.